One of the services that I get asked about from time to time is coming in and assessing an organization as the third party consultant. That's how it starts. And then what will happen is they'll say, we don't know what we're spending our money on. We don't know if our IT organization is doing well or not. Now, typically, these organizations already have financial audits, and doing this is very much like an IT audit. If the IT people are very mature about it, they're going to appreciate it because I've got a track record of being able to go to bat for the IT team to get them things that they didn't get before. Whether that means the right budget approval, titles, job promotion capabilities, ongoing education, training, and things like that. So now the IT folks are actually pushing for someone like me to come in as opposed to being worried about the consultant that's going to come in and start chopping heads and saying you need to outsource everything. That's not my goal. My goal is to go in and do a true assessment and figure out what's going on. Now, sometimes that results in the lack of there being an IT leader who knows how to manage people and clean up these processes and then start working with other departments. There maybe the history of the company is it's a help desk and they've promoted the person with the greatest IT technical experience or maybe has the greatest tenure on the team. That doesn't necessarily make the best manager or IT leader. That person needs to be able to cross multiple departments and figure out how all of the things that touch things digital, which is almost every single thing these days, and how they can almost embed someone in an organization department and figure out how to help that department work better. So we'll go in and I'll do one of these assessments. Once I get finished with the assessment, sometimes people will say, can you come in and run this for us and then help us hire the long-term replacement because they know I want to remain a consultant and not be a full-time employee for them. So we'll come to terms, and typically we think that these things are going to last about 6 to 12 months, and it depends on how fast. They don't want to hire a headhunter because they know the headhunters are just going to put them in front of a body of a bunch of resumes, and maybe that works and maybe it doesn't. But most of the time, people don't stay any longer than 2 or 3 years if they get hired via a headhunter method. If I go in, do the assessment, and then end up getting to run IT for a temporary amount of time, then what I do is I learn the culture, and that culture part really matters. And the reason why it matters is because some companies just want someone to come in and be the manager, run the team, do the budgets, go through all the things, but they've got their moneymaker and it's good, and that's just fine. Other people want to try to do anything from change the world to grow to acquire, and that requires a different skill set and a different company culture. As an outsider, I can come in and review all of those things and then make honest assessments to the execs, maybe the existing IT leader, maybe the owner or the board of advisors or the board members, and let them know what I think is realistic given the time frame and the money that's been given. And then at that point, what we'll do is we'll get things cleaned up, if you will. Matured would be another term. Those terms depend on what you want to call it. But most of the time, the IT folks, at first, they're a little nervous when I come in because they think, oh, is this guy going to come in and start chopping heads and telling us we need to change everything and then outsource? And that is not the case. What I do is I try to make an honest assessment of the entire organization to understand where IT's role is. Do they have a seat at the table? Is the staff compensated appropriately? Do they have the continuing education that they need? Any third party relationships, are they contracted properly? And believe me, I've seen a lot of them that they haven't even been reviewed in multiple years. One of the easiest things we do is find cost savings just by redoing vendor contracts because nobody's touched them in forever. And then a lot of it has to do with documentation and standard operating procedures. And then at that point, we move into actually having a seat at the table and making sure that the IT organization understands what the company's goals are. Because a lot of these companies have never had that. They don't tell the IT team what's going on until after the business has made a decision to grow, expand, divest, etc. And then they suddenly expect IT to drop everything they're doing with the existing staffing numbers and no additional budget to take on this whole new project they knew nothing about. So that's part of the ongoing engagement. And once I learn how a company handles a lot of those situations, then I know the culture. So when we do interview someone for the long-term replacement, or I should say my replacement as the interim head of IT with whatever title they use, then I know during an interview what type of person to look for. And instead of there being a 2 to 3 year tenure period, most of the people that I've hired are I believe, over 5 years in their position now and don't have any intention of leaving right away. If you're interested in an assessment like this, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about just doing the assessment. But if it turns out where you do need someone to run the IT on an ongoing basis, that's a conversation we can have as well. Sometimes it just needs to be a little cleanup, a little audit, and your internal people will thank you for it. And then you'll understand where your money's going and know that just like your finance organization gets audited, so does your IT organization, because too many people think of it as just a cost center and they don't look at it as a way to optimize the operation of the company and help everyone in the company work more efficiently and more effectively. Thanks a lot. I hope you have enjoyed this and this answers any questions that you might have about the vCIO services, whether it's fractional or an IT assessment. Have a great day.